So we all know that Cedar Fair sold off California's Great America to get extra cash. You can get extra cash too by installing Upside and using the code WILLET7348, and you will get $10 as a bonus with your first purchase. So that you too can get extra cash without having to cost potentially a community their amusement park. So we all know what's going on with California's Great America and how Prologis owns the land that the park is on, how Cedar Fair sold the park because they needed that extra cash flow with COVID. That's at least what they're saying. But there is part of this equation and the park's future that is not really being considered in the coaster community that I want to talk about. And that is, how could the park be incorporated into a stadium city? So, as is well documented, Levi's Stadium, where the 49ers play, shares a parking lot with California's Great America. That's pretty well documented. Something that is not talked about as much in the coaster community is that since Levi's Stadium was built, and it's still a relatively new stadium, it was built in 2012, I believe, but it's still a relatively new stadium, but a trend that has developed since Levi's was built is the Stadium City concept, where you have a whole entertainment complex that goes with a stadium. So, as you can see here, I have drawn up a map of what could be redone into an entertainment district. And yes, I'm basically saying get rid of the water park. And the reason that I'm saying that is because the 49ers season, it's not going to align with when a water park would be open. So for an entertainment district, the idea of having a water park, it's not really going to be as good with a stadium like Levi's. If this were a baseball stadium, maybe having a water park would make sense. But as an American football stadium, having a water park doesn't really make sense. So it makes sense to remove it. As you can see, I also have the go-karts circled. And in that is also Woodstock Express, the Intamin family coaster. So sorry about that. That classic Intamin children's coaster, it does get removed with these plans. The buildings that you see here are administrative offices for stuff like HR and stuff. And for a plan that gets California's Great America and Levi's Stadium working as a single unit, where you have the park working as essentially an entertainment city for the stadium, that stuff can be consolidated in administrative areas of the stadium. So to recap, what this plan does is that it gets rid of the water park, it gets rid of parts of the kids area, a small portion of it, it gets rid of the go-karts. The track could actually be kept as a standalone attraction in an entertainment city like this, but regardless, it gets rid of that. It consolidates the HR and administrative offices into the same place where the HR and administrative offices are inside of Levi's Stadium. And it keeps 8 out of the park's 9 coasters. But I'm not done. I'm sure this is part of the plan that coaster enthusiasts are gonna love. So, what you see here, there is something called the Great America Amphitheater that is at the front of the park. This is a plan to remove that amphitheater and to build a big hyper or giga coaster or a multi-launch coaster. Just the point is, a really big coaster that is essentially a parking lot coaster, but it's also a stadium coaster. So what you see here in purple is a potential layout for this coaster. It wraps around Levi's Stadium. So essentially the benefit of this is that when the 49ers play a game, you do see flight deck in the TV things currently when it pans out and it shows the overhead of the stadium. But no, this is going to be something that's really going to market the park, as it shows as it wraps around the whole stadium, any sort of establishing shot outside of the stadium is going to be free marketing for the park that shows off this coaster. And near this big road out here, one potential idea is that after this turn, it could climb up onto the stadium wall, say have an airtime hill that goes up and then goes down and then has a flat section and then drops off the stadium, sort of like a double dip, a modernized version of Jackrabbit at Kennywood, think. But yeah, this is my concept for essentially a stadium coaster that would be used to market the park and that could be used to make it so that, hey, the 49ers are letting the world know when they play games that they have an entertainment city that has a major park that has a coaster like this. This is a concept for how to expand the park in a way that it's going to really be marketed quite nicely with the games that people are watching all over the country every week. So to recap, we're going to be removing the Great America Amphitheater, and we're going to be putting in a coaster that starts there as its station, and it goes out and it wraps around Levi Stadium so that every week when people see the outside of the stadium on the TV broadcasts, they see this coaster front and center. It's not like Flight Deck where it's off to the side. It's going to be front and center wrapping around the whole stadium. Now, of course, with this entertainment city concept, in addition to the park operating as it normally does, it would also operate on days when there are events at the stadium as essentially a way to do family-friendly tailgating, because that's how entertainment cities work, where all the stuff there can essentially function as a way to, hey, get to the event early and then go do whatever the event at the stadium is. It would essentially be able to function that way. So say there is a 4 o'clock game, California's Great America could operate, say, 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on those days. And that way, people who have tickets to the game or whatever event is at the stadium would be able to enjoy the park as one of the offerings in the entertainment city on game days.